There's two schools of thought when it comes to answering webinar questions. I don't think anyone would argue the importance of answering your audience's questions. They honored you by showing up to your webinar, and I think you have the obligation to answer the questions you're asked.
This video is brought to you by EpiPies Academy.
Some people prefer to hold all the questions and answer them all at once at the end of the webinar. Other people will integrate the questions as they go through the webinar. I think this really depends on your experience and confidence in delivering the webinar. I would suggest if you're new to delivering the webinar, let the questions accumulate and answer them all at the end. It's really difficult if you're in the flow of your presentation to stop and answer a question, especially if the question doesn't seem to be directly related to the material. And I can tell you your audience is going to ask you all types of questions. Not all of them will be directly related to the webinar. Some of them may even be inappropriate for the webinar, and I'd skip those altogether. When you're answering a question, you want to acknowledge who asked it, thank them for the question, and answer it as completely as you can. If you can't answer the question right there at the webinar, promise to follow up with materials later, and then make sure you do so. Questions really are providing you with a lot of good marketing intelligence, too, for the webinar, because they're telling you, what aren't you covering that's still leaving questions for people? And two, what do people really want to know more about? That may give you clues for your next webinar topic or topics that you're going to produce. But whatever you do, make sure that when you answer a question, that you're giving the correct and most current information that you can. Sometimes people will even ask questions just to test you and see how knowledgeable you are about the topic that you're presenting. By the way, if you give information that's incorrect and you find out later, admit it and go ahead and follow up with the people who went to the webinar and provide the correct information. But do view questions as a real opportunity to get your audience, to get to know your audience better and to provide more information in the webinar itself that people are curious about. Answer every question. Good luck.